Welcome everybody. This is going to be called Sports Rants with Crazy Chris. I'm Crazy Chris. We're going to just go over some things that happened during the week from last Tuesday to this Tuesday. Actually, we're going to include some other things because this is the first recording of this that we're actually going to do. I have my notepad right here. I write down what I find out during the day, so we'll be reading from this notepad to know what happened. Some of the things I will be going over will be different coaches that were hired, fired. Of course, the NFL season is over. Well, it's not over. We are in the playoffs, and a lot of teams are not still in the playoffs. So, a couple of different places are hiring different coaches. For the people that watch the playoffs, if you've been keeping up with the playoffs, the AFC Championship game is going to be the Tennessee Titans against the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's going to be at Kansas City. That's going to be Sunday. The other game, the NFC Championship game, will be between the San Francisco 49ers and the Green Bay Packers. That will be played at San Francisco. That will be the later game. Should both be pretty good games. You've got the Titans, who have been to one Super Bowl, have not won. The two teams in the AFC or in the NFC have won a couple of titles each. Well, more than just a couple of titles each in between the two. The Chiefs have won a title, but it's been a long time. So we'll see how all that pans out in the coming weeks, and that'll be something to watch. And most people ask me, who do I think will win? I go with Tennessee and San Francisco at this point. So far, I haven't really been successful with that, but sometimes some of these teams upset other teams, and you get that. So sometimes it happens. Of course, we're not going to see. We'll see a new Super Bowl champion because the New England Patriots were knocked out. We will also see a new NFC champion because the Los Angeles Rams did not make the playoffs. So we will see everything new. First couple of things is the Redskins, who had gotten rid of their coach earlier this season. They have hired Ron Rivera from the Carolina Panthers. We'll have to see how that works out. Dallas actually fires Garrett, and they hire Mike McCarthy, who was the Green Bay Packers coach for a few years there, won a couple of Super Bowls, I believe, there. The Panthers are also hiring the former Baylor coach, Matt Rhule. We'll have to see how he transitions from college to professional. I'm kind of interested in seeing how that works out because he is a college coach from Baylor, from the Big 12, and he'll have Cam Newton as well. What we expect to be Cam Newton. Cam Newton may not be the starting quarterback, so they may have to go another route. One of the backup coaches is Matt Greer from West Virginia. He has not shown very good promise in the outings that he's been given. We'll see if that changes. Maybe if he gets more snaps, and see if that goes better. If they change maybe personnel, or if they change how they do things. Rhule has been one of these that has been a rebuilder. We'll see if he can do it here as well in Carolina. They've been needing somebody for quite some time. They made it to the one Super Bowl and they lost that one. We will see how that goes with them. Also, Scott Turner has been hired as the Redskins offensive coordinator. He is the son of Norv Turner, who has been an NFL coach and assistant coach many times over the years for a number of different teams. So we'll see how that works out. We'll see if he's same as his dad, or if he's a better coach or a worse coach. Could depend upon that. Also want to bring to everybody's attention the Australian wildfires. That's something that has happened. Some people have read about it. Some people have not read about it. It's a shame to see things like that happening in the world, and everybody just keep these people in your thoughts, and you, well, not only the people, but uh, the animals and the wildlife that's over there as well, and just keep them in your thoughts as we move forward. Sometimes we don't stop to think about other things that are going on in the world at the time, and I just wanted to kind of let that out there, just to let people know that that is still something that we kind of need to pay attention to a little bit. National title game between Clemson and LSU was last night. LSU ends Clemson's winning streak by winning the bowl game. Burrows, who is the quarterback of LSU, set a single season record. He done well in the game. He done well. I'm not gonna bore you with a bunch of stats. I'm not here to give you all kinds of stats or anything like that. But they pulled out a win. A lot of people thought that maybe Ohio State would have been the opponent. That did not happen because Ohio State, in my honest opinion, I've seen the play. I believe that should have actually been a touchdown, but we won't go deep into detail on that. And Oklahoma, I'm sorry, Big 12 people, but Oklahoma had no business being there. I don't know of another team that should have been there, but Oklahoma had no business being in the playoffs. It should have been somebody else. Because if anybody else watched that, that was over way early in the game, and they never showed up. They never even come back. It was kind of embarrassing. Like I said, we're still doing the Friday night fisticuffs on the Amused Gamers. We're still doing those things. I've got some different games coming up in the next few months. Some that'll be more of them will be well-known games. I'm thinking of doing some of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games that are the beat 'em ups, like number 2, maybe number 3, and number 4 Turtles in Time. Thinking of doing those. Thinking of doing some other just beat 'em ups that we find on there, and we'll see what we can come up with. On the NHL side of things, the Predators fired longtime coach Peter Laviolette. They replaced him with John Hynes, who was the Devils coach earlier this season, and Hynes got fired by the Devils, and Laviolette got fired by the Predators. The Predators were in the middle of the field as far as playoff contention goes. It's still early in the season, but they're still in the middle of the field, so you kind of wonder, and the Devils have been in last place since about the beginning of the year, so you kind of wonder why this thought process was made into hire a head coach from a team that was almost dead last and replacing a middle of the road coach that had been there for an awfully long time. So that's kind of a questionable thing, but we'll see where it goes. Another thing is the Detroit Pistons' Blake Griffin is out with a knee injury. They're not sure how long he'll be out for that team in the NBA. Dwayne Wade had his jersey retired this year. Of course, this is last year for him, and he had his retirement. The Giants are going to hire Pats wide receiver coach Joe Judge as their next head coach. The Giants fired their coach during the year. Another thing that happened during the week, and I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, and that's okay. West Virginia University head coach Bob Huggins gets in trouble, as reported a third time for this same thing. He ends up losing a game. They blame the officials, and he calls the officials three blind mice. A gentleman in the newspaper by the name of Bob Herzl that writes for the paper that is here. He covers the Mountaineers. He said that he's been, that Huggins has been in trouble twice for this same type of conduct. And he was fined $10,000 for this particular incident. He didn't go off on a rant like he is known to do. He didn't go off on a rant, but he did call them three blind mice. And Bob Herzl actually wrote in the paper that everybody has First Amendment rights, and that is right to freedom of speech. I think what Mr. Herzl fails to realize, though, is that freedom of speech can be taken a number of different ways. Like, I am able to talk to you on here, and if you don't want to listen to me, you don't have to. But if you want to, this video is here. This is what it's for. And that's the thing. The equivalent would be as if I had walked into, say, and the Huggins thing, you can't do that. There are many coaches that get fined many amounts of money, suspensions and everything else for criticizing officials. And it would be the equivalent of me walking into my job and just blurting off, me or anybody for that matter, just going into your workplace and blurting off whatever to your boss. Do you think you're going to have a job the next day if you just blurt out to your boss what you really think? Probably not. Probably not. I don't know. Most people might, but probably not, because, and that's where that freedom of speech comes in. Yes, you have freedom of speech, but at the same time, there's places where freedom of speech is not freedom of speech, and it's not clearly accepted. Another thing I saw on Facebook where a couple of clowns from West Virginia University decided to dress up as referees and have mouse nose and whiskers on. That's real classy. That's real classy. That's the way to greatly show your displeasure at certain referees. But here's what it kind of boils down to. WVU has been known to, when they get up into, even like in football and in basketball or anywhere else, they are known to blow it in big games. They are known to blow it. And it happens. They choke. And it happens. And it happens quite a lot. And, every time you hear it, it's blame the referees, blame the referees. I look at stat sheets half of the time, and let me tell you something, when your team and the other team is getting called for penalties left and right, and it's about the same amount, you can't say that you lost by the referee. You just can't. You just have to. You have to end up playing better than what you did. And I know that better than anybody, because my issue is a lot of my teams are going through rebuilding seasons. Most of them have been going through rebuilding seasons for a long time, and some of them are really, really bad. And I'm not one of these bandwagon fans. I stay beside my teams. Even, I don't think, besides the Pittsburgh Penguins, I don't think any of my teams have won a championship since the early 90s. and some of them have been really bad since then. And I still stick with them. So, like I said, I'm not gonna say, don't stick with your team. Don't be a bandwagon fan, but don't, stick with your team, but don't lose your. I guess the word would be, I guess it would be integrity over things that are things that could be better. Team could play better. My team that I like is Florida State in football. They honestly have not been doing well as of the last few seasons. They are in rebuilding mode. They've been in rebuilding mode for a few seasons. Thought maybe they was going to get better. They never really got better. But they lose, and I tell people, I say, it's not the referee's fault. And to be honest with you, I see a lot of WVU fans that I hear from them every year. This is our year. This is our year. This is our year. Basketball and football, but this is our year. This is our year. It's not going to be your year every year. This coming from a Florida State fan that, it's just not like for my team. Next year is not our year. This team, this time, for this team was not our year. It's not going to be our year. It's not going to be our year for a couple of years. So kind of look at what you have and don't just assume that every year is going to be your year. You still have to come out of the Big 12. And you still got to beat the teams like Oklahoma, Texas, Baylor. And, sometimes those teams are good. Sometimes they're not good. Somebody's going to have to put Oklahoma down because every time they get up in a big game, they choke, they blow it. They're showing that the Big 12 is not a good conference. That's what they're showing. And Big 12 needs to send a representative that can show the college football playoff what they're capable of, because there are a lot of other good teams. I thought Baylor might have done that, but I knew Baylor didn't really have the personnel to beat Oklahoma. Texas really didn't have it either, and those were the only two teams that looked like they legitimately had a shot. But coming off of that, Mike Leach has left Washington State to coach at Mississippi State. Leach got in trouble a few years back. I don't remember 100% what for. I would have to look back at that and see what that was. Meanwhile, the Devils have fired their general manager, Ray Shero. They have apparently cleaned house a little bit, trying to find a winning combination. The Browns have hired the Vikings offensive coordinator Kevin Stefanowski as their new head coach. This will be another Browns head coach. I do believe this is about the 5th or 6th head coach in the last decade that we've seen. Maybe more than that. It's getting really old. They need to do something. And they need to do something now. If they're going to do something, they need to do it with this team that they have now. Because if they do not show promise and advancement now, it's going to be a long time again before they are able to do this. You have a team that is there. You will have a moderately good coach that should be there. I know it'll take them a couple years to get in the system, but here's the thing. Do not fire this guy after the first 1 or 2 years. You are going to screw up this team so bad by switching coaches every year. If you switch coaches every year, You're going to have a problem keeping the offense and the defensive people and the personnel that you have out on that field. They're going to be confused because of different plays, different play calling, different playbook, different play styles. You cannot expect this team to function at a high level, even a medium, moderate level of playing when you do not have the mentality to do this. You need to keep, I know that at some point, you do need to get rid of somebody if it's not working out, but you can't just fire them after 1 or 2 years and go, okay, let's just bring this new person in. Let's bring this new person in. Let's bring this new person in. The quarterback for the Browns right now is Baker Mayfield. The man has got to be confused because he's done went through about 3 or 4 head coaches. He's got to be confused with what's going on. I know I'd be confused if I was presented with about 4 or 5 different people with 4 or 5 different views on this. It would be very confusing to me. And so I can only imagine what goes through his mind. Speaking of Baker Mayfield, I'm not defending him. He's not really... I don't like him as a person. He does play moderately well. I just don't like the attitude. That's just a personal thing. But we'll see in the coming years if he can do what he needs to do. So we'll see how that works out. We're going to talk a little bit about wrestling. I'm not going to go over every wrestling organization and all their matches and everything. I'm just going to hit highlights. If you want to go a little bit more in depth on some of the wrestling, check out the YouTube channel Wrestling Reality. They have a lot of good little highlight videos. Also, a gentleman by the name of Wrestling with a Regret that is also on YouTube. He has quite a few videos usually. He does Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown, and also some of the pay-per-views. He does a pretty good job going over critiquing every match that's on the card, be it pay-per-view or be it show. So we'll go over some of the highlights that I've seen during the week. Of course, tonight would be Impact Wrestling. Wednesday is NXT and AEW, which is AEW Dynamite Wrestling. If nobody knows what that is Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes and a couple other people run that and started that up. They have got some talent from WWE. They have taken over some talent. Their storylines are building. They're becoming a little bit better. Kind of gives WWE a little bit of a run. Friday night is Friday Night SmackDown from WWE, and Monday night is Monday Night Raw. Of course, the Royal Rumble coming up. That's one of my favorite events. We'll cover that when it gets here. We'll cover the highlights and things. All I'm going to cover on here is mostly like big returns of people or if titles change hands, which doesn't necessarily happen too often, or if I think that something is worthy of bringing it to the attention of the general public. NXT was Wednesday night. The Dusty Rhodes Classic, which is a tag team tournament that lasts for a couple of weeks. I think it's like 3 rounds. That kicked off, and one of the matches was the Undisputed Era defeated Gallus. I don't really care for the Undisputed Era, but they did beat Gallus. I'm not really sure who Gallus is. This is about the first time I've heard of this team, this tag team. Undisputed Era kind of just ran them over. So there is that. There was a fatal 4-way for the North American Championships. Number 1 contender North American Championship is held by Undisputed Era's Roderick Strong. And the four gentlemen that were in the match, out of the four gentlemen, Keith Lee was the victor. The booking leading up to this kind of shows that Keith Lee was probably going to be the winner of the match. I can't say the guy's name correct. It's Jabakovic, I think. He's the only other person that was actually in the ring that could have maybe challenged for the title, and it been a match that was of pay-per-view quality. So, but Lee is the correct choice in the booking, in my opinion, in this. So as long as there's no interference from the Undisputed Era, Lee and Strong will be a good match. If there is, if the Undisputed Era comes out and gets into the match, I would like to see some people come out and help Lee and make it kind of even, because after a while it looks like the Undisputed Era cannot win by themselves, and we've kind of had that happen before, probably about a decade ago, and fans started kind of turning off the TV because you see the same thing all the time, and nobody wants to see that. So hopefully they'll get away from that. Now we'll go to AEW. I think her name's Rio. She defended against Chris Statlander in a women's title match. Rio, the champion, she defends her title. The story, though, here is Awesome Kong, who used to be in the WWE. I think she's going by the same name in AEW. She had pulled, Statlander goes for I believe a suplex near the ropes, and she has Rio up, and Awesome Kong pulls her leg out from underneath the ropes. That causes her to lose her balance. Of course, Rio falls on her. 1, 2, 3. The win. Awesome Kong, an imposing figure in the women's division, and she is with Brandy Rhodes, who pretty much runs the women's division there at AEW. So that's a little bit of a different. That's a little bit of something to watch for the next couple weeks. Diamond Dallas Page showed up. He interrupted a guy named MJF who was ranting and talking. He's been in a story with Cody Rhodes for for at least a month now, and they're seeming to pulling Cody in two different directions. I don't know how that story's going to unfold with him going two different ways. We'll have to see how that goes. I hope they can pull it off. They may not be able to, but Diamond Dallas Page comes out. Old WCW guy and WWE guy, and he ends up talking smack with the guy and stops him from just going off on what seemed like a forever rant. It seemed like it went for a good amount of time, and somebody just needed to stop it. Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley is better known as Dean Ambrose from the WWE. He has been in AEW for about a month or two now. Chris Jericho, who was also in WWE for a long time, is the champion, the world champion. He tried to get Jon Moxley to join his faction of the Inner Circle, which is made up of LAX from Impact Wrestling. It is also made up of the gentleman that used to be Jack Swagger from WWE. He is now under the name John Hader. Sammy Guevara is another one, and of course, as he calls himself, Le Champion, Chris Jericho. We see Jericho, the week before, we see Jericho offer Moxley a really nice car and a lot of different things like steaks and in the circle and things. And for the most part, I thought Moxley was actually going to join. This is the first time a story has got me thinking that somebody is going to join a faction. And then they kind of swerved on me, so I wasn't, I thought for a little bit there that Moxley was going to join them. And he acts like he's going to join them for quite a few minutes. And then everybody leaves except for him and Jericho. And then he's talking to Jericho, and he says, well, he wants the power, and he wants what's there. And he points at Jericho's belt, and he proceeds to smash a champagne bottle over Jericho's head, or as Jericho likes to call it, the bubbly. A little bit of the bubbly. That's what he calls it. So he got that smashed over his head. So that's where that ended up. They are apparently going to face each other at the pay-per-view, which should be a good matchup. On SmackDown, John Morrison has returned. He's Johnny Impact while he's in Impact Wrestling, and I'd rather see him back here in WWE as John Morrison. I know his wife works for Impact Wrestling under Taya Valkyrie. But I think he does better in WWE. I think they'll realign him with The Miz. They were a really good tag team for a long time. A heel tag team, but a good tag team nonetheless. So I think that's where they'll go with that route. Which they'll use him a little bit more now, I think, than Impact Wrestling was using him. Let's see. Strowman defeated Shinsuke Nakamura. And it was a non-title match, but Strowman, I think, deserves a title shot because he had a couple other people interrupting him, Sami Zayn and Cesaro, and was still able to knock off Nakamura, and that's saying something because but they built Braun Strowman up like this so many times before, and then they just don't do anything with him. I hope that's not where we're heading again because it's just disappointment, and it's just disappointment for the fans. Because the fans want to see him do something, and I think they're getting a little tired of him getting pushed around on that. Also, the Usos return to action. The Usos have been out for quite some time. Come back to help Roman Reigns in his feud with Baron Corbin and Dolph Ziggler. And they come back, and of course, as all this breaks down on the outside of the ring, Bobby Roode comes out to help Corbin and Ziggler. So now Bobby Roode comes back. For those of you who may not know, Bobby Roode actually came from Impact Wrestling. He was there since the beginning of Impact Wrestling, and now he is over, and he has been at WWE for the past probably about 4 or 5 years. He's been over there for quite a while. On last night's Raw, Mojo Rawley won the 24/7 title. There was really nothing else worth going over. Promos and matches and things like that. But there's really nothing else to cover. They're just building up to the Royal Rumble. People throwing their hat in the ring on going to the Royal Rumble and being there. So that's kind of what they did there. Back to sports side of it, Red Sox manager Alex Cora has been fired. Along with the Astros, they fired their general manager Jeff Luhnow and their manager AJ Hinch. All three of these men were fired for stealing signs, for stealing the base running, well, like the pitching signs of other teams. And whether you done it or not, people found out that you was doing something. It happens. And these organizations, they get fined for this stuff. I think they get fined about $50,000 each, and they let go of the coaches, and other people. In other news, the Chargers, Antonio Gates, tight end that had been in the Chargers for a long time, he is going to retire. and he's probably one of the greatest tight ends to play the game. He's one of the best, and you know, hate to see anybody retire, but at the same point, we know you can't do it forever. Can't do it forever. So he's retiring. In other news, Conor McGregor is facing sexual assault allegations. Don't really have too much else to go on other than he's denying them. We'll have to see where that goes. McGregor big in MMA, and we'll have to see where all that pans out. So we'll have to see how that handles. In the a little side note, the WNBA players, they are going to be getting more money and more benefits. This is something that they've tried to work for in the past. Now they're going to actually, they are supposed to be getting more. Of course, they won't reach the men's per se, but they will be, I think everybody should be adequately paid, given a chance to shine. The WNBA has not really been given a chance to shine. Some of the ladies that are out on that court can do some amazing things. Some of them can do better than the men themselves. So, if you don't watch the WNBA, that's your decision. I've seen a couple of games. I've seen a couple of the players. A couple of them are pretty good players, and they're pretty interesting to watch because some of them are more interesting than some of the male players. So if you get a chance to check that out, you might want to check that out. Another thing is, I know NHL's All-Star Weekend's coming up. They're going to have a 3-on-3. I don't know if they're calling it a scrimmage or an exhibition. Women's United States against Canada, a 3-on-3 match, because over the past couple of years, the NHL, when they go to this format and they do these, they do like a playoff for their All-Star game, and like the Metro and the Atlantic will face off, their All-Stars will face off against each other. Whoever wins that one will face the winner of the Pacific and the Central Division. And the winning team takes home a good chunk of money. But it's fun to be had by all. And last year they had a couple of the women's national hockey team go with them on different skills. The skills competition the night before, the judges fastest skater and things of that nature. And they had a couple of the females enter in with the males. And they didn't win, but they held their own. And I'm kind of interested to see the 3-on-3 between North America and Canada. Should be an interesting matchup, even if it is like a little scrimmage or anything like that. What I'm kind of debating on, though, is the Metro Division captain is Alexander Ovechkin from the Washington Capitals. He was the captain last year, and he did not show up for the game. He gets a 1-game suspension. He's the captain again this year, and he's not going to show up for the game, and he's going to get a one-year suspension, or a 1-year suspension, a 1-game suspension. I think they need to change this rule and make it a little bit more severe, because the thing is, he hasn't shown up. Every other captain shows up. These people, the fans vote you in to see you play in an all-star game. You need to be in the all-star game. It's not like, I don't see very many injuries happening in an all-star game, and Ovechkin says, same thing he said last year, I'm resting for the playoffs. Well, last year when you rested for the playoffs, you didn't even make it out of the first round. So, and if you're going to do the same thing again, it ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. You might as well play in the all-star game and get it done. Because like the other three divisions, their captains will be there, and these are teams that are trying to keep playoff streaks going and playoff hopes going, and they're still going to be at the All-Star game. So that's my thing with Ovechkin. You should show up. If the fans vote you in, you should show up. And if you don't show up because you're wanting to rest or do this or do that, they need to suspend you for a couple more games so that you can rest a lot more. So you can get a lot of rest off of that. I just think the penalty needs to be a little bit more severe because these are the fans that are voting people in. Same thing goes with the NBA too. I think Anthony Davis declined to go to the slam dunk competition. The fans, I'm sure, voted him in. You need to show up. You need to show up. That's all I'm going to say on that. You need to show up. He said he doesn't show up because he does it during the games. So I guess he thinks he's too good for the slam dunk competition. I'm not sure what he thinks of himself. I guess thinks high of himself. I'm going to talk about some of the standings in basketball and hockey right at the moment. Tell you what we kind of see going on here. All right. In the NHL, we'll start off with the Atlantic. Boston, of course, has the lead. Tampa Bay and Toronto, the next two teams. Not really surprised to see these three teams at the top. Tampa Bay had a fantastic run last year and bombed in the playoff. Boston's usually up there, and so is Toronto. They usually have a great series in the playoffs when they make it. Detroit is at the bottom. They are still rebuilding. So it's not really surprising to see them down there. Now in the Metro, Washington, Pittsburgh, and the New York Islanders are the top three. Washington's expected to be the top team in the Metro. Pittsburgh has been without Crosby. They were without Malkin early in the season. Now they're without Crosby, and they've still got injuries mounting, and somehow they are still second place in the Metro. They are still holding their own. They're getting overtime wins and things, but as you all know, overtime wins still count for 2 points, just like a regular win. An overtime loss or a shootout loss counts for 1 point, but as long as you get to overtime, you're still getting a point out of it. So as long as you make it there, and as long as you don't lose, you're still getting something. The Islanders made the playoffs last year. I don't see why they can't do it again. The New Jersey Devils are at the bottom, and that kind of makes me wonder because New Jersey has pieces to get the job done and to get back up there, but for some reason they are not able to perform to their level that they can perform at. And to see them down at the bottom when you were basically playoff contenders like for the last 2 years, that shows a little bit of a problem. So we'll see if they can dig themselves out of there. They're not that far behind. It's over 20 points, but we're only midway through the season. Like St. Louis last year, they were one of the bottom teams when midway through the season, and made a coaching change, made a goalie change, and bam, won the Stanley Cup. So it's not unheard of for a team to turn it around halfway through and come on strong. In the West, in the Central, St. Louis, Dallas, and Colorado, the top teams. Not surprised to see St. Louis, defending Stanley Cup champions, returned a lot of players from that team. Still really good. Colorado, I'm not surprised to see up there either. They've been really good for the last couple of years. Dallas, it was kind of hit or miss. Didn't know what they were going to have this year. Wasn't real sure what they were going to have. Didn't know if they were going to be good or not. Winnipeg, Nashville, and Chicago surprised me being toward the bottom of this division. Minnesota, not really surprising. Minnesota's kind of going through a rebuild. But those other teams, I don't know what's going on there. Winnipeg, Nashville, they both have superstars. So does Chicago, and for some reason they cannot get it going. Out in the Pacific, Calgary, Arizona, and Vancouver are their top teams. Vegas is right there with them. I expect Vegas to do well, at least make it to the playoffs. Vancouver hasn't made it to the playoffs in a while, so that's kind of a surprise. Arizona's been in the cellar, but I think they've made some moves in the off season and during the season that have allowed them to become competitors. And if they keep going at the rate that they're going, they will make the playoffs. They may not be the top seed or a top seed, but they will make it. Calgary has been down in the dumps, and all of a sudden they have come up the rankings. Edmonton, San Jose, Los Angeles, and Anaheim are the teams that are in the bottom four of this division, and that's kind of weird because Edmonton should be good. San Jose, I think they're slowing down. I think they're slowing down, and the bad thing is they're slowing down, and they're going to lose a lot of key pieces over the next couple of years. And if they don't find people to replace those key pieces that they will be losing, they will be in through the rebuilding process. And we all know how that goes. The Kings have been trying to rebuild for a couple of years. Anaheim, Anaheim's definitely rebuilding. Lost a lot of people. Had to trade away a lot of people. Just different things. And they just do not have hardly any of what they had. So, there's that. Now we'll go to the NBA. We'll shift to that. Boston, Toronto, and Philadelphia, the top three in the East, as to be expected. A lot of these aren't really going to shock people. They're the same as they were last year. Milwaukee is still the best in the East, still the best in the league, barely. We see what happened to them last year when they got in the playoffs. Hopefully they learned from it, and hopefully it won't happen again. But they've got a couple of players, and that's it. I mean, that's just it. And you figure out how to stop those players, they're done. Indiana is up there too. Miami leads a division where everybody's under 500 except for Miami. I counted up the teams earlier. Out of the whole 30 teams that are in the NBA, there's only 13 that are playing 500 or above basketball right now. There's only 13. That's not even half the league. In the West, Denver and Utah and Oklahoma City are kind of fighting it out up top of their respective division there. All doing somewhat well. Houston, Dallas is trying to catch up with Houston. They're the only two teams in that division that are any good. Houston has James Harden, and I think they still have Chris Paul. So they've got pieces, but I don't think they have enough. I saved that one division for last because I really want to kind of go on that. Golden State is dead last, and it's almost is the worst team in the league. It's amazing how you can lose certain players due to injury, due to free agency and things like that, and be awful. Just be garbage. They need to do something. The Clippers and the Lakers are who I want to talk about. The Clippers are Blake Griffin is going to be out. I'm not sure how long. This is a team that should be good. Oh wait, Griffin's not playing for them anymore. He's playing for Detroit. Never mind that then. He was a Clipper for so long, I still thought he was there. The Clippers have a good team. They just don't have enough. The Lakers are who I want to talk about. Lakers have LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And they are 33-7 as we speak. The only other team, like I said, Milwaukee at 35-6. Milwaukee can't beat them. This is a team that's going to have to be beaten by somebody else. And it's not going to be Golden State this time. The LeBron James and Anthony Davis combination, it's not just that. It's other stuff going on. This team could not have those two and might still be winning with the people that are they're playing really well. I am not a LeBron James fan. I will tell you that straight up. I don't really care for Anthony Davis very well either. I think LeBron James is actually bad for the sport of basketball because he for 4 years we got to see the Cavaliers against the Warriors, and that kind of gets boring after a while because you kind of know the same two teams that are going to be there all the time, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's like, why do you even play the season if you know who the two teams are going to be? Because nobody else could beat the other two teams. I think he's bad for sport on that because he has to go other places to get his wins, to get his championships. And since everybody else weighs in on it, I'll weigh in on my debate. I don't really care. I didn't really care for Michael Jordan as a player until they started talking about the Michael Jordan-LeBron debate of who's the best out of the two. If you look at it, it's going to be Jordan. I know LeBron's got all these accolades and he's done all that stuff. Jordan went to the NBA Finals 6 times. Out of those 6 times, he has 6 championships. If they made it to the finals, they made sure they won. LeBron James, he's been to quite a few finals. And I don't know the exact number right now, but it's been a lot. And he's only won, I believe, 3 out of those. And that's not going to cut it. Plus, like I tell other people, when Jordan was playing against the likes of Patrick Ewing, Charles Barkley, John Starks, Karl Malone, John Stockton, David Robinson, Shawn Kemp. Trying to think of some other people. I know I'm forgetting some. Larry Johnson, Alonzo Mourning, Shaq. Kobe kind of came in at the end of it, I think, more so to take the torch at that point. He went up against Larry Bird, went up against Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, went up against Magic Johnson and those Lakers teams that were, Vlade Divac and James Worthy, guys of that nature. And, the Bulls had, they had Pippen, Rodman, and Grant, and Kukoc, and some of those other guys. So Jordan wasn't by himself. Really wasn't by himself. He had help. James has help. James had help in Cleveland for years, and still couldn't get the job done. But it goes to show. I mean, I'm not saying that Michael Jordan played against future Hall of Famers at that time, or future legends. And I'm not saying that anybody in this generation is not a future Hall of Famer or future legend. That's still yet to be determined. That will be years down the road. But I just don't see the level of competitive ability that you seen when Jordan was playing. The level of the competition, and it's in every North American major sport. Football, I mean, you had the Patriots for a long time there. You get tired of seeing the same team. Well, unless you're a fan of that team, but you get tired of seeing the same team go up there, and you get tired of seeing that, and it kind of gets bad for the sport. The sport gets kind of stale. That's what happens with racing, and there's still some diehard racing fans, but until Johnson left You didn't want to watch it anymore because you knew who was going to win all the time. Same thing with football. Baseball. Baseball's kind of changed over a few years to where different teams are getting there, but it's some of the same are still getting there. But I mean, it's still different things can happen, and you're starting to see that in football this year, and hockey every year. It's the Penguins are the only team in the collective bargaining agreement to have won back-to-back Stanley Cups. Nobody has done it since. I don't know that anybody will do it. It's hard to do because the teams get evened out almost every year. There's not a super hockey team that you can just say will just run away. That you can just say, yes, they're going to make it to the playoffs. Yes, this is going to be the team to beat. There's not just one team. And there's parity. Like, say last year, a lot of the teams that were expected to go far in the playoffs, they got knocked out in the first round, swept by a lower seed. You know, it's not always the best team that wins in football, as we've seen last couple of weeks, and that's kind of why I wanted to talk about. That's one of the things I wanted to touch on. Patriots beat New England and the Ravens. And the Ravens were the best team in the league, and New England was defending champions, and Titans have beaten them both. And, you know, Kansas City faced Houston. Houston beat the Bills, which kind of can be taken either way. I thought maybe the Bills would actually play a little bit better and beat the Texans, but that didn't quite happen. And in the NFC, I'm sure the shocker was the Minnesota Vikings beating the New Orleans Saints. And beating the Saints at the Superdome, which is a hard thing to do, to come into an environment like that, and with the quarterback, Kirk Cousins, who is known to blow big games. But, you know, hey, Minnesota wins that game. They go and play San Francisco, and San Francisco beats them. But still the shock of the first round. I don't think, besides outside of Philadelphia, I don't think anybody expected the Seahawks to lose to the Eagles at Philadelphia. I certainly didn't think that the Seahawks would lose that game. I figured they would win, and they did. Little bit questionable about the loss at Green Bay. I really thought they'd win that game. But that's kind of why I can't take Green Bay against San Francisco. I picked San Francisco and Tennessee to be in the Super Bowl because I can't take Green Bay because a few weeks ago they played against the Lions in the last week of the season and were losing and had to come back and win. They almost lost the game against the Seahawks when the Seahawks were trailing. So I just can't trust them. Meanwhile, Tennessee, you know, everybody's going to be going, oh, you're crazy to pick Tennessee. Maybe, maybe not. This is a defense that stopped Brady and the Patriots, and it's also a defense that stopped Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. And everybody says, oh, well, they're not, not that. These defenses, this defense on here, I don't hardly know anybody on this defense. I don't hardly know anybody on this defense. And they're stopping people. And another reason is because I know the Chiefs put up 51 points on Houston, but Houston scored 31 on Kansas City. And I just worry about the Kansas City defense. Kansas City defense, I don't know. I don't trust them to be able to stop Derrick Henry and some of the other Titans players. So, you know, we'll have to see what it is. But I think we pretty much covered everything. I just kind of wanted to talk about the channel in general. We have a channel now that if you're watching this, it's on the channel. If you like the videos that we're pushing out, hit the like button so we know. Also, if you have comments about a game or any of this that I'm doing in general, if you want me to cover different stuff or different things, I mean, I can try to do more than what I'm doing right now. Or if you want us to try to do different video games, let us know. If you need to, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button. The notification button will let you know when myself or one of the other two gentlemen that post videos, when they post videos on there. If you are a member of our Facebook page, or if you are a subscriber and you know how to stream, or you want to stream something on a video game, we would love to let you do that. I mean, we will let you do that. You can get us the video somehow, and we can put it on YouTube, as long as we won't get a copyright infringement on it or copyright strike on it. We can do that. Like I said, if you want to see a certain game being played, let me know what the game is. If I do not have the game, I will find something that is similar to it to try to stream for you, and I will try to stream even if it's not a game that I'm particularly good at. I will still try anyway. I will try the best I can, because I've played some of them and they're absolute garbage, and they're hard to play. I do a lot of the retro streaming. We have another gentleman, his name is Diabolic Moss, that's what he goes by. His name is, gentleman's name is Roger. He streams some of these simulators. He's one to watch that we have on our Facebook page. Another one is goes by Gen44 Jim, and that's my cousin Jim. He streams a lot of different newer generation games. I stream newer generation and retro, so I do the retro streams as well. We have a lot of videos on YouTube right now that are a lot of retro streams. We all just stream for fun and for help. What it is I'll have somebody ask me, one of my favorite franchises is Mega Man, and somebody will ask me, which robot leaders do I take on number 3? And the best thing I can tell them is, you take which one you think that you can beat first, and then you go from there. Because I might make a video and I might beat one person, they might beat somebody else, and then go another route. I'm not saying that the way I do it is the exact right way to do it or the only way to do it. That's just the way I feel comfortable doing it. If there is something on a stream that you see that you don't understand how I do it, or why I done this or that, drop me a comment and let me know, because I would rather you know how to do it than to stand there and get frustrated for 15-20 minutes trying to watch a video, because I've done the same thing with a couple other videos, and it gets very, very frustrating when you can't do something and you can't see why somebody else can do it and you can't, when it's a simple button press. So that's something that that we try to we're going to try to help people with things of that nature. But like I said, if you see us on Facebook, like us, if you want to be invited, or if you know somebody that likes sports, video games, anything of the sort, let us know. Invite them in. If you're a member already, invite them in. If you're not a member, we're under the Amused Gamers. I'm on there. Jim's on there. Roger's on there. You can find any of us, but it's under the Amused Gamers. And for those who aren't already in the group, For those who are already in the group, again, if you want to stream something, if you want to put something on there, all I ask is not to use foul or obscene language, and let's not get into big like arguments or like political arguments or anything like that. I know people like to share their thoughts and ideas. That's fine. We just don't want it to get to a heated area of, we try to dodge around politics because we really don't want to get into that area either, because that's a big area that a lot of people have opinions, and a lot of people rub each other the wrong way, and we don't want to do that. We have this Facebook page and this YouTube channel for us to have fun. Again, this is me signing off. I'm going to try to do this every Tuesday, but this is going to be me signing off for this Tuesday. I hope everybody has a good rest of your week. You can find us on YouTube under the Amused Gamers, and then you put a space Gamers. It's on there. If you can't get us by that, or if you need any more help, you can find us on Facebook under the Amused Gamers, and you can find us under that. Ask me or any of the other gentlemen for the link, or anybody that's in the group for the link, and we'll get you set up on that. And but like I said, like our videos so that we know what's going on. If you want to, you can subscribe to the channel. We're not charging anybody anything for subscribing to the channel or anything of that nature. We're just trying to get a channel and Facebook page going, to help other gamers, and to just give people something to, not really something to do, but another different way of looking at things, on certain things. So that's what we're trying to do, and that's our goal, is for everybody to have fun, everybody to have a little bit of an input. We'll see where it goes from there. So this is Crazy Chris signing off. If you try to look me up on the Xbox, I am under Amused Iceman. That's with a capital A, M-U-S-E-D, capital I-C-E-M-A-N, and that is that's on Xbox. If you need to find me on there, that's all one word. And if you find me on there, just let me know who you are, and we can add you on there as well. Like I said, me and Roger are on there quite frequently, so we'll see you on there. So those are the ways of getting in touch with us. I appreciate your time for watching the video and listening to these rants, and I'm signing off until next Tuesday. We hope to see you then.